Quinn slowed down and stopped.
These glasses just suck.
He pushed his glasses back up onto the ridge of his nose before they slid down again. He needed a new pair. The glasses were crooked. Tape covered the temples, making them look shabby. Quinn turned around and raised his middle finger.
I bet you don't even know how many fingers I'm holding up.
The boy clenched his fist and ran toward Quinn.
You level 1 piece of crap!
When are you going to learn that you don't belong in this world? The boy placed both of his hands together. A green ball of light formed between them, shot out from the palms of his hands. Quinn had nowhere to go. He couldn't dodge. A student appeared from a doorway.
I saw them. What's going on? Are they really fighting on the last day of school?
A crowd formed, interested in what the commotion was all about. One of the female students ran over to check on the assaulted student's safety. Quinn's curly black hair came into view as the dust settled. The female student finally saw who it was. She instantly backed away and continued on with her business. She wanted nothing to do with him. As she returned to her friends, Quinn saw that they were laughing at her.
I can't believe you tried to help them.
I didn't see who it was, the girl retorted, her cheeks flushed. Quinn stood up. He picked up his glasses, which lay on the floor. To his dismay, one of the hinges had fallen off. He let it hang loosely in his pocket instead of wearing the broken pair. Damn it. Not again. Quinn had hoped no one would try anything with him on the last day of school. He was sick and tired of their harassment. He wasn't the type to ignore it either. He saw people who chose to keep their heads down and tolerate it before. Their treatment was far worse than what he received. Quinn didn't bother to stay at school the rest of the day. He took his broken glasses and left. He saw students having conversations in their circles as he walked past them. Some laughed, while others cried, thinking this was the last time they would see each other again. Quinn wasn't a part of any cliques and didn't want to be. They wouldn't welcome him anyway. He was the weird one. Quinn immediately went to work when he arrived home. He lived in a single-bedroom apartment with just enough space to fit a single bed and a desk. It was enough for him. A TV hung on the wall, but Quinn only used it as background noise. He never watched anything. The government provided him with the apartment since he was 16 years old and had no living relatives. A single suitcase sat on top of his bed. It contained all his belongings. They were neatly packed. He walked towards a cabinet and opened a drawer. It accommodated a single book. It was a large and thick hardbound book, weighing about half a kilo. The front cover was dark crimson, as though it was covered in blood. An upper and lower jawbone took up the center of the front cover. Both were colored in a swampy shade of brown. The upper jaw had 4 separated fangs. Meanwhile, the lower one had 2 sharp teeth on the ends and 5 evenly spaced underneath. Let's try again today, Quinn said as he lifted the book and placed it on top of the desk. He went to his bag to pull out a little test tube that was half filled with a colorless liquid. Test 112, hydrochloric acid. Let's see how it goes. He poured the liquid out of the test tube onto the book. So far, there is no reaction. He proceeded to pour all of the liquid onto the book. He waited to see if anything would happen. There was no reaction. Carefully, he examined the book while jotting down the results in his notebook. He checked to see if there was any damage done. There wasn't. The book looked the same as always. Another failure. Why won't you open? Why did Mom and Dad even have this thing? 112 times. This was the number of different ways that Quinn had tried to open the book. Not only did the book not open, but it seemed like it couldn't be damaged either. He tried burning the book, cutting the book, melting the book, and 100 other tactics. Nothing had worked. The book was basically indestructible. Quinn lay on his bed and turned on the TV. He never really paid attention to what was on. The sound of other voices just made him feel less lonely. The TV displayed an ongoing news broadcast.
The peace treaty with the Dalkey race has lasted for 5 years now, but officials are saying that tensions are rising once again. Now, we must prepare for another war.
The TV talked about the war non-stop ever since a certain day 30 years earlier. The human race received a visit from the so-called Dalkey. They had the physique of humans, except their skin was covered with thick scales, and they had reptilian, dragon-like tails. No one knew why the Dalkey appeared, but they demanded that the human race hand over their resources. The Dalkey planned to use humans as slaves. Of course, the humans fought back, but their modern technology was useless against the Dalkey. Bullets couldn't penetrate their skin, and as for tanks, well, the Dalkey had airships. Every individual, regardless of gender, was told to fight for Earth. That included Quinn's parents. The war went on for years. Quinn grew up not knowing what his parents looked like. A select group of people came forward when humanity was on the brink of defeat. People with special abilities. They shared their knowledge of how they obtained such power in hopes of turning the tide in the war. Thankfully, it worked. Even so, the Dalkey were still powerful, and a seemingly endless stalemate led to a peace treaty being signed 5 years ago. Greed soon got the better of humanity. High-ranking government officials kept the powers for themselves instead of sharing them with everybody else. Only people with money could learn the more powerful abilities. Everyone else was left with scraps. Poverty took over the world. People had powers and used them uncontrollably, unlike before. The government gave Quinn nothing when his parents died. They agreed to pay for his living expenses while he was still in school, but that was it. He was only 10 years old when his parents died. An agent appeared at his doorstep and handed him a book. It was the only thing that Quinn's parents possessed. One they passed down when they died. Why is the world so unfair? He uttered, lamenting his situation. Quinn got out of bed and sauntered toward his desk. He picked up his broken glasses. He noticed that one of the lenses was slightly out of place. He tried to punch it back into its frame. Come on, just get in! He shouted as he tried to fix the glasses. His frustrations mounted as he struggled with the lens. The lens cracked into pieces. One of the shards cut a deep gash in his thumb. Ridiculous! Quinn screamed and kicked at the table. Why does the world hate me? After a while, he stopped feeling sorry for himself and cleaned up the glass. A piece had landed on top of his book. As Quinn moved the glass, a drop of blood from his thumb landed on top of the book. The jawbones in the center of the book started to glow. Suddenly, the book began to float. It hovered until it was eye level with Quinn. Quinn darted back. What's happening? The book emitted a blinding radiance. It shook uncontrollably. The book finally opened. Its pages fluttered in the air. Quinn couldn't take his eyes off the shining book. He was in a deep trance. The writing on the pages wasn't in any language he had seen before, but for some reason, he felt like he could understand it. When the book reached its last page, it started disappearing, gradually turning into dust. Quinn's body suddenly felt weak. His vision began to fade. The world grew dark. Something felt wrong inside of him. Just before he passed out, he heard a message.
Congratulations. You've been granted the boon.
Unable to maintain consciousness long enough to hear the rest, Quinn passed out.